What's up, YouTube? Angry Jackalope here. Rob Ricks. I'm back again. This time Oh, yeah. Wow. Okay. So this time I got a story. So I had the breakup with the ex, and that was, a pretty traumatic point in my life. I went through a whole lot of shit when that happened. And there's a lot of rebounding that went down. Um, so my mom was working, and she had a young gal that was working with her. Was roughly my age. I think the girl is maybe a couple years younger than me. Anyway, she was this Peruvian chick, and of course, my mom only saw one side of her on the job because when you're in a job, you always kind of put your best foot forward, and put out this facade of who you want people to think you are. And I did that a lot early in my career, but as time went on, I decided, fuck it. If they can't accept me for who I am, they can just eat a fucking dick. I don't care. And that's probably why I'm self-employed. I just can't handle the corporate environment, and I finally just said, fuck it. And I have these now as a kind of a symbol of me saying, fuck it, I'm never going to work a regular 9 to 5 again. Before that, I had tattoos that could be covered up with sleeves. I've had long sleeve shirt on here and here. But when I got these, I basically said, you know what? My shit is my shit. I'm going to do it my way. Anyway, and at that time, I was considering myself a player. I was talking to a lot of different girls, and just doing a lot of silly things to kind of cover the fact that I was hurting. And so then I met this girl, and I'm not gonna say her name because I don't want to run a risk that she or one of her friends sees this shit. I don't want to deal with any drama, so I'm just gonna call her. I'm just gonna give her a name of shit. I don't know. I need a name. Mary. Fuck Mary. Okay, it's not even close to her fucking name, so it's great. Anyway, so this chick Mary and we went out on a few dates, and it was awkward. It was funky. And at one point during the second date, I was taking her home, and she was pissed. She was really irritated at me. And I was all, what's your fucking problem? She goes, you're my fucking problem. I'm like, why? She goes, you are so stupid that it's not even funny. And I go, what do you mean? She goes, you act like nothing's a big deal. You act like this. You act like that. You're arrogant. You're cocky. But it's a facade. It's a fake. You're not being who you really are, and blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, that's your fucking opinion. And she proceeded to say some shit that just stung and hurt to the core. She basically said, how do you even hope to ever love anybody if you can't even love yourself? And that took me by surprise, because I had found out by the second date that this gal was a party animal. She would go clubbing, she would do a bunch of salsa dancing and stuff like that, hook up with motherfuckers, and just go home and be a freakazoid, right? and I found out she was also into drugs. So here I'm like, I was mad because I was like, how the fuck can you even lecture me when your life is a wreck, right? But the big difference was her life was a wreck because she chose it that way. She wasn't a victim. She wasn't playing a victim. She was following a decision or a path that she was fully invested in. She wanted it. And I was like, fuck. And it really hurt and it irked me, but that's when I realized that was a true message. Didn't matter who it came from. Doesn't matter. But she uh, she delivered the message, and I went home after dropping her off, and I spent a few days kind of meditating on what she said, and I was like, "Fuck, she's right." And that was kind of a big turning moment for me. Um, and and that's when I decided, okay, she's right. And I think I went out on a couple more dates with her, and we hooked up, and then we both realized that it wasn't a good fit, and we kind of went our own separate ways. And short time later, she hooked up with somebody else, and as far as I know, I think they're still together. So, anyway, she was just a brief moment in my life, but her words rang true and still stay true. In fact, I often give her advice to people that will sit there and cry about relationships and things like that. And the first question I ask them is, when you look yourself in the mirror, are you happy with what you see? Are you comfortable in your own skin? Do you love yourself? Um, if you don't love yourself, you're going to have a very difficult time in relationships, because first and foremost, you should always love who you are. And if you don't love who you are, you need to figure out why that is, and then systematically just kind of resolve those issues. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. It's a quick episode, but I think the message is really powerful, and I wanted to share that with you guys because I felt that was important for relationships. You know what? I'll add one more little piece into this same episode, since we're talking about, fundamentally, we're talking about relationships. So I had this guy named Dickie George that I used to work with, and he was in a really long relationship, and I remember asking him, Dickie, what is the secret to a long relationship? And he said, well, it's a really easy mathematical calculation. I said, all right, I'm listening. He said, first, it's 50% compromise. I'm like, okay, I'm with you. 50% compromise, that makes sense. Then he said, 10% listening. I said, okay, communications, all right, I gets it. He said, then it's 30% compassion. And I was like, all right, compassion. Okay, all right, compromise, compassion, listening. Okay, I'm like, all right, so what's next? And then he started rattling off a bunch of other things, like making time for each other, 20%, and this another 30%. And I was like, whoa, hold up, Dickie. Now you're at 140%. That's not making any sense. He goes, exactly. He goes, relationships don't make any sense. And he said the only way you're going to make it in a relationship is to understand that it doesn't add up, and every day you need to remind yourself why you fell in love with that person. If you don't do that, every random time that you think, what will happen is eventually you guys could drift apart, and when you guys are fighting, if you at that moment try to remember why you fell in love in the first place, it's not gonna come to you. So you need to remind yourself constantly. And so anyway, that's kind of two pieces of how I deal with relationships. One, I love myself, and it's not from the arrogant, narcissistic, self-conceited way. I love myself in that I love who I am. I respect myself for my moral values and my principles, and I try my best to help as much as I can. And then, I try to remind myself as often as possible why I fell in love with my wife in the first place. Because thinking back to my ex now, I can't remember things. It's completely gone. And I know I got memory issues, but, I can't remember a lot. And I spent 7 years with that girl. And there's not a lot of positive things that I can bring to memory and throw out there. So I think even in a regular relationship, committed relationship that you're working on with somebody on a day-to-day basis, if you're not reminding yourself, you can fall victim to that. So anyway, that's it. Love yourself. And if you're in a relationship, remind yourself why you fell in love with that person in the first place. Always think about all the good things about them. Because otherwise, if you allow the negatives and the fighting and things like that to build up, eventually you're not going to be at the same level you were with that person in the beginning. And always remember, relationships are a lot of work. A lot of work. All right, guys, that's it for this one. Hope you like it. If you like it, please subscribe. Tell all your friends. Until next time.